brother! Guys, the Lego Batman movie just came out. I've seen it twice. Ben's seen it.
I have seen it once.
Just the once. But we wanted to review it because we loved the Lego movie so much. And we were like, oh my god, new Lego movie. And we love Batman. So today, we're going to figure out whether the headlines are correct. And this, the Lego Batman movie, is it the best Batman movie?
Okay, so I have seen the movie once, which means I have enough to answer this next question, but let me ask you to start off. What were your initial reactions to the movie?
Okay, my initial reaction was not as good as the Lego movie.
Yep, I think that definitely... Actually, I was going to say became abundantly clear, but in the first, 10 minutes of the movie, I was like, oh my god, we're on pace.
Oh yeah.
To be as good as the Lego movie.
It starts off and you're like, oh my gosh, they have recaptured lightning in a bottle.
Yes.
It is that funny again. They're sort of doing all the Lego-y humor. They're also doing some good Batman stuff. It's like a good blend. And I feel like they took the opening scene, the jokes they put in the opening scene, and they repackaged them 200 times.
Yeah, so that very quickly became my biggest gripe for this movie. So the preview for it, we see the scene where you have Bruce Wayne at Wayne Manor and he's looking up at the pictures of his family and kind of having this flashback moment, and then Alfred comes over and he's like, you're doing that thing again, like you did back in 2016 and 2012, and he rattles through every year,
Batman
a new Batman movie.
Basically.
And that scene then goes on to be replicated over and over and over again, where it's we're gonna keep making jokes about how there've been a bunch of different renditions of Batman and how we've captured all of these villains so many times, but look, they're still on the streets. And I would even say that scene, that Wayne Manor scene, I thought was a wonderful example of a preview that did not need to be in the movie.
They didn't need to put it in there. But I guess if you hadn't seen the trailer, it would be funny. Although, that being said, after you saw that particular scene, I think it was still funny in the movie, but they do that scene, I think, 3 times.
Yeah, I know at least again when the new Commissioner Gordon is giving her speech, she's kind of going through and once again kind of rehashing this history of all the
Batman movies coming out. Yeah, so they do that, and it's a weird problem because they set up the joke the same way, and at some point you stop knowing whether these are always Batman references or these are Lego references or are these just movies in general references.
That was the thing. They played around with a whole bunch of different things. At certain points in time, they were making jokes that were just specific to this movie. Hey, that's a funny thing that happened because of the scenario brought to you by
the
Lego
plot
Batman.
of the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there were jokes that were throwbacks, in some very deep cut Batman. Throwbacks. And then sometimes they were just making fun of movie tropes in general.
Right.
So with the opening scene where it's just blackness. Or
you
know.
All right. Well, I think I've got all those things written down as individual topics to cover.
Got it.
So let's kind of jump line by line here.
Okay. Sure.
So we don't get too off track.
Okay. No problem.
All right. The first thing I have down. Do you think this was a Lego movie or a Batman movie, or what did you want it to be, or...
Okay, I will say I firmly wanted it to be a Lego movie.
I agree. That is why the Lego movie itself was so good, because you kind of went into it and you're like, is this just going to be a giant commercial for Legos? And then you walk out and you're like, nope, that was hilarious. They understood their product so well, they know what's funny about it, they know what's...
Oh, yeah, all of those little things, and I this is the example I always give about the Lego movie, but when Emmett's taking a shower and the little blue plastic dots are falling on him,
soap bubbles and stuff,
Instead of animating in some other version of water, it was just oh my god, I know exactly what they're going for, and the nostalgia is just washing over me.
And Emmett.
Zing. And little blue circular dots. Because that's what nostalgia feels like.
Yep. It feels like stepping on a Lego. Because we've all done that.
That's a delightful feeling.
It isn't. I'll just say that my favorite part of this movie was whenever they did more Lego-y stuff.
Right.
There was a lot of Batman stuff, like we said earlier. And I mean, but like my favorite parts were like at the end, they like sort of like stack on top of each other's head, which is not something that like people could do because people aren't Legos.
Right, so they leaned into the very fact that they are
Legos. And then like at some points Batman references like, oh, I'm a master builder. And he's like, hand me those bricks.
Yes.
And so like that made me feel like, okay, yeah, it's a Lego movie. And then like when the city like clicks back together at the end. I was like, yeah, that sort of feels like that sort of silly Lego humor that I wanted, and those made me like laugh the most. But it was still a pretty funny movie. But those were like my favorite parts. It was just way overshadowed by the overwhelming amount of like Batman fan service and Easter eggs and troping they did.
Yeah, that by far was the biggest thing to me. Is like I think I went into it hoping that it was going to be a Lego movie, and what it ultimately ended up becoming was this kind of like maybe a borderline roast of Batman in some ways, like where they made like so many jokes just about like kind of like what we said before, just like the same things. Like how many different Bat vehicles were there? Like I think there was like a Bat kayak.
Right. Okay, so that the Bat kayak. Okay, so that is a great example of the whole. At some point though, like if you don't know enough about Batman, you can get lost in like, or you can feel like left out of the joke a little bit.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, so I had a note on that exact topic that I called shark repellent versus bat rope.
Sure.
And this was an issue I was having with the movie where I didn't know, like, so shark repellent is making fun of like a previous Batman thing.
It is a thing from the Adam West Batman series, like back in the 50s or 60s, where they're being attacked by a shark, and, you know, Batman has everything in his utility belt, and he has something literally called shark repellent.
Right.
And you're like, that's ridiculous. And it's a big internet meme.
Right. Yeah. Yes. But, like, on that note, if you don't know that reference, like, just the very idea that he has something that seems as useless as shark repellent can be kind of funny, even if it's not making fun of anything, but you're not sure.
Right.
And then later in the movie, there's this moment where he uses the bat rope, which is like literally like a piece of
yarn.
Yeah. That he's using to like hold the steering wheel in place. And what was weird about that is that was something where it was Lego Batman movie specific. Like that joke was not referenced to anything. It was supposed to be like a funny moment for this movie.
Right, but because he has the other three people. He puts the rope on the handlebars to autopilot the ship when he has three other people there. And he's like, nope, I trust the rope more than you.
Right. So it's something that's supposed to be funny, but then at this point in the movie, if you feel like you're missing jokes because you don't know what they're referring to, all of a sudden you're like, like that would be funny if I didn't think I was missing it.
Yeah.
Like, is this like a super, again, you know, deep cut like thing that I'm missing, or?
Yeah. I mean, they did it. I think the best example for me was when they listed off all the different Bat vehicles, because at this point in the movie, I think it is the fourth time already they have used the joke where they list out everything. They do it with like, they have all the different villains who are like from the comics who seem like ridiculous, like Polka Dot Man and Condiment Man.
Condiment Man, yes. Like, yeah, we had to look that up. That is a real thing.
Yeah, they're like, are those all real villains? And they are, and that's why it's funny. But they list all these things out, and then you get inside and you see all the Bat vehicles, and they're listing them out again, and you're like, okay, is the joke that Batman has way too many vehicles and something for everything? Is the joke that these are all the vehicles that you've seen in every other Batman movie? Or is the joke that these are all products Lego has made for Batman that seem ridiculous?
Right.
And it's like, is it all of them? Or is it one of them? Or, I don't know.
Right. And so that's where, like, the original question that the strain was, like, is it a Lego movie or is it a Batman movie? It's like, I think if you were an extreme Batman fan, like, throughout your entire life, and you've seen all of the Batmans, and you're, like, an avid, like, even potentially as far as a collector of things Batman, I bet this movie hit all of the feels for you. Where you were just like, oh my god, and I get that reference, and it would just be like snowballing itself, where they probably hit everything.
Right.
And the people who wrote this movie, I bet you anything, are avid Batman fans.
Right, so it's like an interesting thing where, like, the more you know about Batman, I think the more you will like this movie.
I think that's true.
Right, so like if you say it's the best Batman movie, it means theoretically you have the knowledge to compare it to every other Batman movie, which means it sort of like makes fun of everything else, and you probably like it more.
Right.
But if this should not be the first Batman movie you ever see.
No, definitely
so
not.
much of it will be over your head.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so we've talked about all the different Batman references, which was pretty much the next thing on my list.
Okay.
The next was like the trope humor. So it's not only making fun of just Batman stuff, it's making fun of just like movie tropes in general at the same time.
Because that is a thing about superhero movies in general, is that oftentimes they end up following essentially the same path with different flavor, essentially.
Right, a little bit. Yeah, but so like this one, like the opening line, I'm not sure if you guys caught this, they called the airlines MacGuffin Airlines.
Right.
And so like, that's funny because the MacGuffin is like a term or a trope used, it's just like, it's a plot device used to advance the plot, but the actual item doesn't really mean anything.
Right, it is basically like the movie telling you like, everybody in the movie is going to care about this thing. And it's like, it doesn't matter what it can do.
Right.
Like that is borderline
Not
irrelevant. It's just, we're all in agreement, this matters.
Right, and so the example I always use, and this is, or to just sort of explain this, is like, if you remember in Avatar, they're all hunting the unobtainium.
Yes.
And so unobtainium is the name of the trope that is used for like the unobtainable metal of the movie.
The resource.
Typically. So for Avatar to call it unobtainium, it's just like, no, you're doing it wrong.
Right.
You're supposed to call it like Metal X, and Metal X falls under the category of unobtainium. It's
like that movie's like, yeah, so you could go through and throughout like a course of entire movies, you could go through and pull all of the unobtainiums, even though none of them are actually called unobtainium. Like, it's the very definition of the trope.
Exactly. So, like, Avatar does it wrong. Batman movie does it right because it's aware that it is calling it a MacGuffin airline on purpose.
Yes.
And you're like, okay, that's funny. And that's sort of the thing. It's like it's like making fun of itself, but because it's doing it, it's okay.
Right. But again, that is totally one of those things that, like, as people who spend an enormous amount of time scrutinizing movies, like, we got that. We were like, oh, like, I see what you did there. But to anyone else, and again, I'm gonna throw back to that, like, you don't know how the joke could be. Like, MacGuffin Airlines could be like a famous Batman.
Right, maybe
airliner.
it is, and maybe you just don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
So depending on how you interpret that bit of information, it could totally hit you and be like clever, or it could not be.
Right. So I think I liked the more of the movie trope humor.
Right.
A little bit. Like, it opens on a black screen, and Batman begins narrating how good movies start on a black screen.
Right.
Like, this is great, because I don't know if you ever watch the channel CinemaSins, which is one of my favorite YouTube channels.
Oh, absolutely.
But, like, everything he does, it'll start and be like, black screen, point. That's a sin, Opening on logos, that's a sin. Reading, and this movie was like, okay, we're gonna do it on purpose and make fun of the fact that we're doing it.
Right.
And it just like, it almost felt like we don't even need to put reading in here. We're doing it because it's stupid.
Right.
Like, we're making fun of other movies that have reading.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think maybe my favorite, well, I don't know if it's my favorite thing, but I thought something that was like a really meta, self-aware thing was when Batman has the merch gun.
Yes, the merch guns were hilarious.
Because he's like promoting himself, which is not something he does, but it's like, it was almost like a parallel to the Lego movie itself, where like, Lego was promoting the selling of Legos.
Right.
Right. And here they have Batman promoting the selling of himself inside a movie where they're selling themselves.
Right.
And I was like, I see what they're doing there. And I thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
They get it. They know it's like a big Lego commercial as much as it is a story.
Yes. Yeah. So overall, the movie is very, very self-aware. Even to the there's the Doctor Who reference. I thought that was absolutely hysterical.
Yeah.
What are the robots called?
Oh, the Daleks, I think.
Daleks, yeah. Right. So they pop up, and like the Joker actually like breaks the fourth wall and is like, "Ask your nerd friends."
Yeah.
It's like if you don't get this reference, like lean over to the guy next to you who probably does.
And sure enough, we were watching. We don't watch Doctor Who. Sorry, but we were like, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And we were watching the movie with our friend DK, and we leaned over and was like, "It's Doctor Who right now." He's like, "Yeah."
Totally got it.
You got it? Yeah. Oh, I got it. Yeah. Don't take my nerd card. Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, so that's more, I guess, like the outlying stuff on the movie. One of the things that bothered me was that in the Lego movie, the big like reveal was that, oh, it's a kid playing with everything.
Right.
So they didn't have the kid or a real person.
They didn't show you.
Right.
But the more that I feel like we've discussed this, the more I feel like I still think that element is there. Like, so they didn't present you with a child that, like, is playing in his parents' basement, like, manipulating these characters to like, allow the story to happen. But there were a lot of things that happened throughout the movie that could absolutely lead you to believe that this is exactly what's happening.
Right. It almost, and I feel like we're using the word trope a lot, it felt like the Lego, they were trying to avoid becoming, like developing their own trope, or like, oh, every Lego movie has a real kid playing with them. And that's like that's the secret ending where they go to the real world and blah, blah, blah.
Okay. Yeah. So that is one way to look at it. And I'm almost okay with that, where like if they're going to continue to make these movies, maybe it would become a little bit annoying if at the end of every single movie the big reveal is that. But maybe like what they're doing is writing and scripting and developing the storylines as if it is a kid that is creating the story.
Right. And I think there was, I think, and this is not my own theory, we'll throw one of these in for you, that this movie, the story is being played out by a kid playing with Legos.
Right.
And so, like, for one, I think the very first clue they give is that they say, Gotham City is about to explode, and as everyone knows, Gotham City was built on, like, flimsy wooden planks.
Right.
And so we're gonna fall into the Phantom Zone. You're like, that's stupid. But, like, the flimsy wooden plank is the table, the Lego set is sitting on.
Right, like the actual physical... Right,
the actual physical real-world table.
Back, all of a sudden, yeah, that totally makes sense. Like, I even think as a kid, my Lego set was on, like, a sheet of plywood that Dad had stretched across something.
Right.
Like,
so, like, this here, beneath this table, is the Phantom Zone.
Is the Phantom Zone. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that completely makes sense. So, and then there was a moment that at first I had a complaint about, and then maybe I was coming more to terms with it. Again, going back to, like, Emmett's water, where it was, like, the little blue circles or whatever. There is a scene where, like, water floods through the city, and it's like animated water.
Yeah, I was like, what is that? That's not real. Why isn't it Lego water?
Right, like, we're like in a Lego world right now. Like, everything should be Lego. It shouldn't be that. And then I remember talking to you about this and complaining about it, and you were like, but what if it's actually water? Like, as if, like, there was a kid playing with it, and they took a glass of water and like, poured it over the movies. Yeah. Totally seems like something a kid would do.
Like, makes more... Yeah, that's sort of like, the more you think about the movie as if it's, like, a kid thinking of it, a lot of it makes sense. Like, even, like, Batman's personality makes sense.
Yes.
Where he's like, if you're a kid pretending you're Batman, you're like, oh my god, I'm Batman, I'm awesome, I can do anything. But, like, Batman actually is not a very happy person. Like, it would not be cool to be Batman.
Right. Yeah, so... It is almost very much like how a child's interpretation of what it would be like to be this superhero. Like, I have a bat cave in a huge mansion on an island.
Yeah.
And, like, yeah, it's totally their concoction of how great it would be. But, like, in reality, it would completely suck to be Batman. Like, you have this dark, cold, lonely life.
Right, yeah, you separate yourself from everyone, your parents are dead, you know, it's...
Right.
It's awful.
But even that, like, one of the things that I kept noticing is that, like, he is almost too much of an idiot to be such a good hero. And again, it kind of plays well with that thought that, like, maybe a kid's controlling it, where, like, they can give him this goofy sense of humor, but then also, like, whenever you're playing with your toys, when does the hero ever not have the ability to super jump and be stealthy and unseen?
Right.
Like, you have the convenience of creating your own story as a kid.
Right, yeah, that's it. So that's like how the Phantom Zone villains are also then able to come into this storyline, because it's like, oh, you just have other toys, and you're like, well, I'm bringing them in too.
Exactly,
right.
Yeah,
they're from over here, outside of this playset.
Right, because, how many kids have exclusively, like, the all-encompassing, every toy associated with, like, the story you're supposed to be telling? No, like, you have like, dinosaurs and, like, you know, just from other franchises, other things that you like, so it completely makes sense. And then the last one that I thought was super funny that I'll bring up, just to kind of, like, cap off the, we believe that this is a kid creating the story, is where the new Commissioner Gordon studied at Harvard for Police. Which
that was hilarious.
Is totally, like, as a kid, you can recognize that, like, Harvard is, like, known as, like, the smart place
like,
you're
the
supposed
best
to go.
school.
Right.
But, like, you don't know, like, lawyers, you know, as a kid, like, that's not, like, a relevant thing to you. You just know Harvard's a good school, so whatever you went to Harvard for, that's good.
Right. So, like, if you go to Harvard for police, must be smart.
That's the best police school.
The best police.
Right. Harvard as a kid just means the best.
Right.
Yeah. That's good branding on their part.
That was.
Although, I'll tell you what, I don't know if you caught this, but my final little one, and this could be like a much more progressive little tiny thing that hid in there, is that the Monitor, who's in the Phantom Zone, which is just like a brick.
Right.
At one point, she's like negotiating with Batman, and Batman's like, oh, wouldn't your boss be happy if I got all those bad guys back in here? And she was like, yes, she would. And I was like, who is she?
Right.
So on the one hand, it means like maybe it's a girl playing with everything, which would be kind of a cool thing, or it could also just mean that the Monitor is like a little boy, and it's like your mom wants you to clean up or something.
That is very true. That is very true.
I like to think they went for the little girl as playing the story out.
Yeah. No, I actually I thought that definitely was a cool little moment there, and definitely I think as we have this movie and can go back and start building like actual theories about it, I'm sure we are going to look for every clue possible that it is a girl playing with these toys.
Yeah, sure. I like that idea a lot. So then my next thing is, how do you think it like treats Batman as a character? Like the whole feud he has with the Joker in the movie is like the Joker wants a negative relationship with Batman and Batman doesn't want to give it to him.
Right.
And so like that's why they end up fighting. He like creates it anyway.
It's interesting how that plot actually develops, because it's almost like in the beginning Batman won't give it to him, which basically in the real world completely solves the problem. Like the Joker ends up inevitably playing him through this like whole scenario, but it's kind of like no, we are not meant for each other as hero and villain. Nope. And it's like he gives himself up, and then like Batman is literally actually exactly how you would hope Batman would be, is bored.
Right.
It's like he has nothing, there's no time to fight.
But like that's what Batman should hope for, is boredom.
Right, that is what, but then again, Batman does not exist without crime.
Yeah. So that's like exactly like, again, it goes back to the whole a kid's playing with it. Like if you're a kid and you don't have like the bad guy toys, what are you going to do with just Batman?
Right.
You know, like Batman has to have someone to fight or Batman's uninteresting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So nobody wants just a Bruce Wayne action figure.
Right. Like, to that end, I like how this movie, there's like almost no Bruce Wayne.
Right.
That's another way kids imagine Batman. Like no one's like playing Batman, they're like, I'm Bruce Wayne. It's like, no, you always have the mask on when you're playing Batman as a kid.
So he like gets home and doesn't take the mask off. Right. He like stays as Batman like behind closed doors.
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I liked that. I don't know, do you have anything else?
I don't think there was a whole lot else. Would you have like an overall rating for this movie in terms of like, did you love it? Would you see it again? Would you see it in theaters again? Will you buy it?
Interesting. I don't think I would have seen it in theaters a second time had we not been doing a review on it.
Sure.
Yeah, where I brought my little notebook and wrote everything down. Would I buy it? I don't feel like I would buy it. I feel like I would watch it on Netflix.
If
it was on there. But I don't know. The other thing though, like I walked out and I was like, it wasn't as good as a Lego movie, which sort of was a bummer to me. But then like, as we sat and talked about it, like, I think I had more fun reminiscing about the movie than I did like watching it. Like a lot of the parts seemed funnier in retrospect than they were while they were happening.
I can completely see that. And I actually think that as a kid, this is one of these movies that we would have walked out of like having loved.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're a kid, you will love this movie, hands down.
Okay, so as a kid, you may like this movie, but I want to know your ranking of it. What did you think? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, how many Legos do you give it?
How many bricks does it get?
How many bricks?
Man, so when we walked out, I think I probably would have given it like a 6 maybe. I think since we've talked about it and I've had a lot of fun like enjoying the movie after the fact, I'm somewhere between like a 6.5 and a 7. I'll give it a 7.
Okay. I think it's funny. I'm probably almost in the exact same boat where I think I walked out and was almost like straight down the middle. Like I did not like it, and I did laugh, and I thought like it was like an enjoyable movie, but there wasn't that same like Lego movie where I've bought it and like on after like a long day, I will sometimes just watch the Lego movie.
Bro, the Lego movie is like I walked out of that one in such a good mood. It was like, that's like one of my new top 10 favorite movies.
Right, like, of all, yeah. So, I don't think that there was that part of me. I think I was thinking of 5, and probably more that we've talked about it, I would say I'm venturing into like the 6.5 territory.
Okay.
So, I would, and maybe a second pass because you have seen it twice now.
I would say it was better on the second time, I thought.
Yeah.
When you can like be waiting for the jokes and be like trying to find them a little more. You know a little bit more what to expect. So that was good too.
Right, sure. So if you liked it enough to end up seeing it again, you may end up liking it more.
Indeed, yes. So give it a second chance. If you have friends who haven't seen it, I'll go see it again.
I'll go see it again.
I'll see it again. Yeah, why not?
All right, so for our question of the day, have you guys seen the Lego Batman movie yet? And do you agree with our review? What did you think? Be sure to leave your thoughts in the towel section down below.
Yeah, but I think otherwise, that's about it. Do you have anything else?
I think that's everything.
All right, well then I will see you in another life.
I can't lean out because the wall's here.